Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports. There's a lot going on, a lot of mega trends, a lot of things that are going to take decades to clean up, even if Donald Trump is successful at righting the ship, at cleaning out the deep state, at overthrowing the oligarchy that's taken over our country. A lot of stuff to work through. And in my opinion, one of the biggest ones is the interplay between the genders. Not a topic we talk about a lot, but let's get started with some of the context. And I'm going to go through a bunch of charts because I'm trying to create a context beyond just our two party red versus blue, Democrat versus Republican, Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris paradigm here. There's deeper problems, as we've pulled on before. You can't just take one question and run the results and expect that to reflect reality like Karl Rove did. And I called him out on Twitter. You have to look at all of the polling, all of the data, all of the statistics, and things in this country are not well. And it's what got us here in the Trump era, where essentially what we have is an economic populist uprising. And that's why Donald Trump was elected. I'm sorry if your 401k took a little bit of a hiccup. Actually, I think April was up after Liberation Day, positive, believe it or not. As one of my followers, Geiger Capital, said, it was priced in already. Man, I got some great followers, and I follow him, obviously. He's a public opinion aficionado. But look at this. Children not living in two-parent homes. And regardless of your racial makeup, the number has been going up quite a bit, especially from a percentage basis. It looks like white Americans' percentage of children has gone up since the 1970s from 10% up to 25%. That's like what, a 250%? That's big. That's big. That's like 2.5x. That's horrifyingly big. That means almost 3 times as many children today are living in not two-parent family homes, just in like a little over 50 years. Is that progress? Is that the vaunted Democrat progress? I don't think so. And if you don't either, please hit like, follow us, subscribe, share this out there. We want to try and get more people. The algorithm will do it on the fly. Post where you're from, post what you had for breakfast today. And let's wake up YouTube and get everybody in here because we're going to go deep. And also, again, like I always say, throw a question up if you have a question in front of your comment. But then there's this one. America has become a nation of dual income working couples. Now, this one's a little bit different. I think people might say, well, this is progress. It's gone from 1960s, 38% of households had only the husband working, down to 21%. And both spouses working is up from 47% to 66%. Now, I assume this is of two parent families, right? And so if you look at the whole pie, it's probably even worse. And wife only working, up 2% to 7%, massive increase, but not a big part of the picture. Not a big part of the picture there. The big part is that, look, I mean, 21% plus 7%, under 3 in 10 households have kids where only one parent is working. And it's 2/3. It's been there stably. It's almost like this trend has just continued. It was part of probably the sexual revolution and individuality in the 60s and 70s with a massive feminist wave, and then has firmly cemented itself there, probably driven by a wave of globalization. Also not great. Then we have this average age of US birthing parents is rising. Now we're getting into like demographic collapse because people are just waiting. It's becoming tougher economically. Globalization has hollowed out in the middle class, and this one has really started to pick up right after the great financial collapse. We've looked at this before where we compared per capita share of the total public debt to median real income and how rapidly that number shot up, 5x in just a period of 20 years as well. We went from 21 and a half average age of first birth to almost what are we pushing 28 here, 7-year increase. That's a massive, massive number. That means total net less children. Now, I am not Elon Musk. I'm not a global technocrat that has a highly financialized company that has an incentive to want to push people to have more kids. I actually don't necessarily think that demographic collapse is the huge problem that everybody makes it out to be. Because as a free market capitalist, I actually believe in creative destruction. And yeah, it's so stupid. Why does humanity always have to increase? All natural cycles ebb and flow, right? Like literally everything. You have the sunrise, the sunset, the ebb and flow of the tides. Why do we always have to have year after year more human beings on this planet? It doesn't seem to make sense. Uh, I just like the idea of people who are financially strained, so much so that I mean, there's obviously other reasons that people are waiting. Cue the sexual revolution, right? Um, how about academic institutions now offering ubiquitous free financing of 4 years of partying, 4 years of a party lifestyle and date culture? Tacked on to a child's education, almost like we're training them not to start families. Obviously, it's not just all the economics, but then you're putting those people underwater from a debt perspective as well. Yeah, what happens if population decreases is okay, Social Security's got some problems. Maybe some government debt's going to get written off. Maybe a whole lot of people that have stuff are going to lose stuff. Again, creative destruction. Deflation helps some people, doesn't hurt everybody. And it's like Elon Musk wants you to have 10 children on the odds that maybe, 20 years from now, one of those 10 children will buy a Tesla. Like doesn't make sense. You shouldn't go into debt because of that. And I don't believe anyways. My point is this number's going up. Not a sign of good things, no matter what the reason it is. Then you look at this, and this is the population collapse. This is literally what you're looking at here is the blue line is births. It's pretty much stagnated on an annual basis and has been going down a little bit. Annual births going down and deaths rapidly going up with a nice little spike there from COVID. Um, we can conjecture about what that spike is and why it happened. And I don't have more recent numbers. Maybe the numbers of excess deaths have increased. I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a while. We don't shy away from those topics here. But, like this is what happens when people can't find mates and the two genders are pitted against each other. More signs that things are not well. Uh, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Only 40% say yes. We've had that number also this cycle, mid 30s. Only 22% of people say today's children will have it better off than their parents. That's a horrifying sign. Like also the polling supports that these charts have real human impact. And then there's just like crazy stuff like this. Tim Pool was talking about this, I don't know, a week or two ago. Actually, I think he's been talking about it for a really long time. But it's gotten to the point. Now look at this because what he's talking about, uh, 6 to 8%. He had come out and said 10%, but he did the math on the show, and apparently 6 to 8% of 18 to 24-year-old women in the U.S. are on OnlyFans making content. That means that for every, 20 parents right now watching my show, there's better there's better odds that at least 1 in 20 of you, your kids on OnlyFans making content now. Like it's that is bad. And so put that into the dating pool, put that into the whole context of how women engage with the internet and make money. Again, not a sign of good things. Now, I mean, let's acknowledge also there has been this wave of feminism. There has been a push for women to have not necessarily equal opportunity. I think they've been gaining for a long time, but also this idea of equality of outcome that has morphed into a cultural subtext where trying to put this nice, like they can't do any wrong. This whole Mary Sue girl boss thing has taken over culture. And people rebelled. And you can say, all right, well, this is a tangent. Well, yeah, but my firm belief is that politics is downstream of culture, and that in between Trump 1 and Trump 2, a culture war was won in which people who love their content, apolitical people, pushed back on the globo homo hierarchy of organizations working hand in glove with government to oppress people and to shove Marxist content down their throats. To say no, like, I do like seeing strong women. There's always been strong women in entertainment. But what happens when you turn the volume up to 11 and it gets too much? And I like this is very real to me because I think that this is a more concrete example of what I'm talking about. But if you're not familiar with the Wheel of Time, it's essentially Game of Thrones for smart people. Very great series, 14 books, one huge overarching story about end times. And it's got very strong themes about gender. Very, very positive story. Ultimately, what it's about is men and women overcoming their differences and learning how to work together and complement each other. Very powerful, like very relevant. And Amazon bought the rights, spent like $1 billion producing 3 series of this schlock now. And I'll tell you what, they did not put that theme in there. They ran from it. I guess they got a feminist showrunner. I think he's gay. Totally no bueno to talk about men and women having very fundamentally innate different characteristics that complement each other. That's not for modern audiences. You can't have a story like that. And of course, it's turned this series into absolute garbage. I don't recommend anybody watching it. But this, what I'm trying to say is this permeates everything. We don't talk about it a lot, but we even had Kamala Harris, a woman, versus Trump, and there was a lot packed in there. And quite frankly, what it gave us is a little glimpse into, in my opinion, um, the war that's happening right now, the information war that I've talked about many times, and the targets of the information war. And I might have brought this chart up before, but this is a beauty. Maybe someday Rasmussen will reproduce this ourselves. Maybe we'll have more of a signal. Maybe we'll have less of the signal. I'm actually thinking about maybe putting questions about SSRIs into our poll tomorrow. I think that'd be a fun one. But what this says is that among conservative men and women, yes, younger men and women do have higher incidence of saying yes to this question. As a doctor or healthcare provider ever told you that you have a mental health condition, 20% of conservative women under 30, what's that, like 13% for men. And then the older you get, the lower the numbers go because there was a lot less diagnosis there. And quite frankly, stronger people. I do think Rich can say what he wants about boomers. They they waded through the rivers in Da Nang, right? Like they're stronger people. They are. Um, in many ways, I think. It's you give and you take. It's not. I don't want to paint with a broad brush and generalize, but moderates, men and women have younger men and women have higher incidence. But look at the liberals. Liberal men under 30% of them, over 30%, say that a doctor or healthcare provider has said they have a mental condition. That is almost 3 times conservative men under 30. That's a problem. But look at women. 53, I think it's 53% of liberal women under 30, compared to only 20% of conservative women under 30. So there's a very strong signal here. Obviously, something's going on with the men, but the women are the ones that stick out like a sore thumb. And I think, and here's, I think, the hypothesis that has been potentially proven correct here. Here's what I think we witnessed this summer, how Brat Summer may be propelling Kamala Harris to the American presidency. Yeah, can TikTok help lead the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz campaign to victory in the United States presidential election the way that Twitter, now X, was believed to have helped Donald Trump in 2016? Listen, it wasn't Twitter in 2016, I don't think. I think it was Reddit. So this might be a little revisionist history, but anyways, is Harris's so-called brat summer enough to sustain her momentum into 4 more years of a Democratic-led America? The conversation. Is anybody familiar with this rag? With under 100 days left to Election Day in November, Harris's campaign has quickly taken flight. This is from mid-August, right before the DNC, raising a record-breaking 81 million in just the first days of her candidacy and 310 million in the month of July alone. Democrats also have an unexpected supporter in singer and songwriter Charlie XCX. I don't know who that is, who fueled youth excitement with her tweet, Kamala is brat. The brat summer. Kamala Mentum. This woman went from like the worst vice president. Like we literally asked that question, is she better or worse than most recent vice presidents? Everybody was like worse. We can bring the polling up at some point, maybe later in, but it's like she went from that to literally like Mother Teresa overnight, especially among certain demographics. And before we go there, quick stop at these crosstabs. This is from TikTok is not safe for teenagers, most say 2022. But what I wanted to point out is this here. Is this the one? Do I have the right poll? Does TikTok have a positive or negative influence on American culture? Only 8% say very positive. Only 18% say somewhat positive. What I'm trying to point out here is this whole idea of TikTok and this whole idea of Kamala momentum. I see the signal in the polling right here. Women under 40, 15% say very positive, the same as men under 40, but another 33% of women under 40 say somewhat positive. So that's like 48%, almost half of women under 40. It's like 32% for men. So of everybody in these crosstabs, it's the women under 40. And also to some extent, Black Americans and Democrats. But again, the highest number here, women under 40. I mean, you can look at every single income group, demographic group. I think you're going to find the same thing. Women under 40 in this crosstabs have the highest signal for positive because TikTok has a positive influence on American culture. And here you are. Here it is again in the polling. Now, I have to explain what you're looking at here. I slapped this together right before the show. This is our July swing state poll done for the Heartland Institute. It was with Biden, not Harris. And so I say Democrat and not Kamala Harris. And then September. Now, we did an October set as well. Actually, 2 October sets, late October. But I picked this one because I felt like it was in the peak of the response bias post the DNC. This was done right after Kamala Harris's debate. And people were kind of happy about her. It didn't really change the polling much from a matchup perspective. But here's what I want to point out to you 18 to 29-year-old men. Trump won by 5 points in July and 2 points in September, a 3-point change in the direction of Kamala Harris. That's what pretty much everybody did at an upper level. And so they just moved with the pack, basically. 30 to 39-year-old men, interestingly, in July, were actually more Democrat. And I don't know, maybe I got a lot more blue collar people and they liked Joe. I don't know, right? And keep in mind, this is after the debate. So there is some statistical noise here. But look, they went from 13 points Democrat to 10 points Trump. So there's an aspect of Kamala Harris getting into the race. These people are like, wait a minute. This isn't what I signed up for. They bailed. They became 23 points more Trumpy. But look at the 18 to 29-year-old women. Pretty much everybody stayed the same, removed Trump. But the 18 to 29-year-old women moved 25 points Democrat. They went from going Biden by 3 and change to Kamala Harris by 28 points in just like 2 months. These are the people that brat summer was effective on. It worked. Also, the same group of people, ostensibly with a higher incidence of mental health. The squishy soft targets, in my opinion, of the psychological warfare, the ones that have been attacked over and over again. Get them into college, you know, get them on a career track, um, give them new groups. I think it's about matriculating them into new social groups where social cohesion is very high, a need for social cohesion, and get them into circles where you can gain status in said groups by exhibiting certain beliefs stronger than others. Like, I think this is the way it works. Maybe we should get an expert on to talk about these kind of things. But I really do think there's something there, something that these people were literally attacked by TikTok and by all of the. I suspect there's also probably some way that I can numerically support the fact that these people are more susceptible to celebrities. Actually, let me throw a tab up and I'll try and look that up when we get a chance to chat, because we have polled on that as well. Um, but I want to look at a couple of other bits of polling about this whole topic before we get into the numbers that I've come up with. Um, and this one is for looking for love. Most don't like dating apps. Again, this is just like the situation that we've been put in from this decade long feminist progressive. And again, can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. I get that. Have you or someone you known ever met a person through an online dating app that they ultimately married? Only 30% of adults say yes, 65% say no. This is from back when our formatting was jacked. Back in 2022, only 6% have a very favorable impression of online dating apps like Tinder, with 25% somewhat favorable. But look at the women under 40. Again, 11% very favorable, the highest, another 34% somewhat. And men are right there with them under 40. So, like, look at the age trend here. Total favorable under 40 is 44%. Over 40, it's 25%, 65 and older, 11%. This is like the wave of the future. This is going to be taking over. And one of the, everybody's going to be exposed to these things. That's going to have influence on public opinion. Here's an aspect of like, how important is it for children to grow up in homes with both of their parents? This number has been high. It's always been high. 61% very important, another 25%, somewhat 86%. You rarely see a number that high. Look at the 18 to 39-year-olds, that number's eroding. Only 52% of them say very important. And overall, with women under 40, 54%. So that's 70, what is that, 79%? Men under 40, it's even lower. Who was most influential in your upbringing? This one kind of also hit me in the feels. Everybody said mother, 52%. 28% said father. Is this collateral damage from the war on masculinity in men? I don't know. Is it men not fulfilling a role that they need to do a better job at? Is this the way that society has decided it's going to make a joke of strong men? I really don't know, but that number is especially low. Look at the number for men under 40. Only 25% of them say that their father was most influential in their upbringing. Isn't that? I think I would say my father. This doesn't seem right to me. For everybody, only 34% of men say their father, 47% say women. 75% say they grew up in a home with both of their parents, but look at the 18 to 39-year-olds, only 66%, 84% of the boomers. Society has fundamentally changed just in the last 3 or 4 decades, and we haven't seen the ramifications of this yet. That's why I say it's the fourth turning. Is listen, Trump can go in there and get Doge and get control of the DOJ and maybe imprison some people and arrest some folks that were doing things wrong, but society is still going to hell in a handbasket. I don't know how you fix it. The church has absolved its responsibility. Let me rephrase that. Most large denominations of organized religion have absolved their responsibility. Like, who's fighting for this? Like, not that many people. It's just not. It's like everybody still doing their own thing. Not a lot of social cohesion, too. 35% say Me Too movement has gone too far. This has more influence in the way men and women interact, just like the dating apps, just like OnlyFans. 35% say Me Too has gone too far. Only 18% say not far enough. And like, here's the wild one. I don't know if I got a lot of white knights in this sample, but look, men say it's gone not far enough. Men under 40, 29% to only 19%. But women, by a 2-to-1 margin under 40, say that Me Too has gone too far. Put that one in your favorites folder. I love it. Women favor a world run by women more than men. Agree or disagree? This from 2019. Again, this stuff won't have changed much. We just can't poll on this stuff like every month. Agree or disagree? I'm absolutely confident that for 2 years, if every nation on earth was run by women, you would see a significant improvement across the board on just about everything. And only 33% agree. I have the flip side of this coin queued up in the next tab, but you got to admit that this result is stunning and beautiful. 33% agree, but 44% disagree. Men disagree strongly, 57%, only 21% agree. So whatever, the Me Too one, they're like, oh no, oh, it's fine. Keep that Me Too going. I don't have anything to worry about. But they're like, don't let the women in charge. But women, only 44% agree. 33% disagree. That's kind of strong. Again, the 18 to 39-year-olds, more of them than anybody else, agree. That's the thing. They're the most liking of Trump still today. The highest Trump approval in the low 50s, down from 60%. But they are very socially progressive, despite the fact that they like what Trump is doing to the government. Only 50% of Democrats say that the world would be better if run by women. Republicans say no, 62% to 20. Independents say no, 41 to 26. I thought that was cool. But then there's this. So if you didn't like the last poll, well, we have this for you. In March, just from like 2 months ago, 50% agree that the future is female. You can see there's a lot of schizophrenia. That's why I find this topic so interesting and why it's hard to draw a bead. It's like Ukraine, where I can poll a million ways and find a whole bunch of like moderately strong signals, but it's hard to make sense other than these things have not resolved themselves into a way forward. Like, for instance, in my opinion, the situation at the border did. Back in 2015 and 16, we were polling on, well, hey, is a wall racist? And now it's like, do you want 100% deportation? And people are like, yes. That's what happens when American opinion changes and people decide what they want. And they decided they wanted all the illegals gone. They haven't really decided what the direction of the country from a gender perspective is. Which party better represents the interests of most American women? Democrats or Republicans? 49% say Democrats, 37% say Republicans. But here you go. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Despite all the challenges we face, I remain convinced that yes, the future is female. And that was a quote by the esteemed side of beef that was chucked in a van. 23% strongly agree, 27% somewhat. So that's a 50% agree to only a 28% disagree. So that's a really, really strong signal there, strong majority. 18 to 39-year-olds overwhelmingly agree. That number's in the 60s. But look at the party numbers. Democrats, again, that's 62% agree. But Republicans, it's 47% of Republicans agree, and hardly any of them disagree. Although it's funny to watch Republicans and independents try and figure out what to do with this question. Look at the not sures, 26% for Republicans, 24% for independents. Like, it's like they wanted to answer the question correctly, but I don't know. In the next 5 years, will women hold more leadership positions in politics and business or fewer? 34% say more, 18% say fewer. But here's the numbers that we came out with today. That's why we're talking about this, by the way. GOP is the man's party. And that's why this is awkward for our feminist progressive future, because the GOP is in power right now. And all signs point to, with the current state of the Democrat Party and what Trump is doing to right the ship from an accountability perspective, the Republicans might stay in power. And so that means at some point, maybe in some meaningful way, opinions about gender will change. Maybe the Republican Party will change. I don't know. And fix the brand disadvantage it has here. Which political party best represents the interests of American women? We just asked this question 2 months ago, but here it's like essentially the same. 52% say Democrats, 41% say Republicans. And what's funny is that there's no difference in men and women responses here. It's the exact same. And there's not really an age signal. Black black voters overwhelmingly say Democrats more. That's expected. There's a bit of a crossover signal here as well. More Republicans say Democrats than vice versa, and independents by a 10-point margin say Democrats. And that's, I mean, this is from polling where independents have a pretty good favorability rating of Trump, I think only underwater a few points. So people are objectively thinking about the question and saying, well, I still vote for Republicans, but yeah, probably the Democrats, probably the abortion thing, probably the baby killing. Which political party best represents the interests of American men? And by a bigger signal, a much bigger signal, 15 points instead of 11. Well, maybe it's not much. Voters say Republicans, and women say it even more than men do. And 18 to 39-year-olds say it by a lot, 55%. And black voters do not. They're the only ones that haven't really switched here. They still say Democrats. And the crossover advantage is going the other way now. But independents say Republicans, what's that? Almost 30 points. Like that's big in the mid 20s. Say Republicans more than Democrats. In terms of education and employment for young people today, who has more opportunity, this is just like a little cherry on top. And people think that men have more opportunity still. Young men, 26%, 15% say women, but a majority, 52%, say it's about equal. So for a majority of American US likely voters, we have achieved equal opportunity for young men and women. Maybe we have to stop with all the quotas and all this other stuff. Like, I don't know. What number would we have to see here? Would public opinion ever say more than 52%? I don't know what it would take. But now we're going to get into the polling numbers, and we're going to look at Trump approval with gender and age, because I think that this is where this is all pointing. What does it mean today? What does it mean for Trump approval? Which is probably not the most important question to ask. I think right direction is. Right direction still at 45% today. But I fight the battles I've been given, and I've been given this battle about Trump approval to fight, because this is the only thing the Democrats have to undermine Trump, and they're lying. Listen, I wouldn't fight back if they weren't lying. If they said Trump approval was horrible and I agreed, then no problem. But they're lying about it. Anyways, here's Trump net approval, men and women by age. And 18 to 29-year-olds, pretty close. Trump looks like he's net +6 for men under 30 and net minus, call it 7. So like 13 points, not a huge difference. Pretty close. I mean, that's reconcilable, but not among the 30 to 39s. And that's interesting because a lot of polling has said, well, the 18 to 29-year-olds are based. And I don't know, like I haven't seen that. I still think they're more progressive. I think the signal that everybody is kind of conflating is that really once these people try to start to form a family and then they're like, oh, this is screwed, then they start to get it. Then they, but the women like here are totally not playing ball. Like the men, 32% net approval for Trump. That's like 60 something to like high 20s. That's ridiculous. They love Trump. Women, 30 to 40, not so much. 22, 23 points underwater. I mean, they're like 50 points apart. This is crazyville. I don't know how they're forming families. I don't know how, like, Maybe politics doesn't matter that much to them. I don't know. Um, but this is like statistically speaking, if a man and women in this age range like met on the street, like high likelihood that the man's a Trump supporter, the woman is a Democrat supporter, Trump hater. 40 to 49-year-old, very similar. And then only after the children move out, people settle into like late stage, get ready for retirement, 50 to 64, then the numbers come together. Except for the 65 and older women. That's like, isn't that wild? 18 to 29-year-old women like Trump better than every other age group of women. That's fascinating because that also doesn't fit the psychological operation of Brat Summer. Almost like it was all about Kamala Harris. And maybe they don't have such a strong opinion about Trump. Maybe it's statistical noise. I don't know. I mean, that's a big sample. It was like 12, 1,300 US likely voters just from the last couple days. But we're going to break it down even further. Now I have married and unmarried men and women. And there's a standout here. This is, like I said, Geiger Capital. He's a good follow. This is our numbers. N equals 1,086 from April 30th to May 4th. And married men approve of Trump, 19 points net. Unmarried men, 16 points net. No change there. Pretty similar. Married women, it's a wash. Unmarried women, 26 points under the water. They stick out like a sore thumb. 55% strong disapprove. A few points more than people ever strongly disapproved of Biden. So that's a lot of hate. And then here gets even we have even more numbers. So now this is layering in an age signal, and there's even more of a standout. And this blows my mind. Married 18 to 39-year-olds overwhelmingly love Trump. These are people that married early, established a family, whatever. I mean, probably in many scenarios, the primary breadwinner, statistically speaking. But married women also like Trump, just not as much. 18 to 39-year-olds, 21%. But here's what's wild. As married women get older, they become more anti-Trump. As their children leave the house, they go to 20 points anti-Trump, a 40-point swing. And I don't know what's going on with the 40 to 64-year-old married men. Maybe it's like a midlife crisis. But they stay Trump supporting. They only lose about 11 points overall as they age out. But married women, 41-point swing away from Trump. Unmarried men, 18 to 39-year-old, are actually anti-Trump. Maybe it's because that's what's required of the dating pool. I don't know. But older unmarried men are Trump supporting. But here it is, the unmarried women under 18 to 39. And this like sheds a little bit of light on these numbers, right? It's like, why are the 18 to 29-year-olds, why are the 30 to 39-year-old women not as anti-Trump? Well, you combine them together, it pulls the 18 to 29-year-olds down, but it's a married signal layered on top of just the gender and age. And unmarried women, 18 to 39-year-old, 37 points anti-Trump. That's more than any of the other numbers on that chart, right? I mean, really big. And what's wild is as they get older, they get less anti-Trump. So it's the married ones. I don't know. Maybe they find solace in the cats because that's what we're going to talk about next. And then I'll take a break. We'll chat for a little bit, and then I'll go back and talk about the information war. So this is from September. Very, very, very unique analysis. It was a very busy time as well for Mark Mitchell, head pollster of Rasmussen Reports. I was not sleeping a lot. And so it's a little bit ugly. And the numbers still should be relevant, but instead of Trump approval, it's all Trump versus Harris numbers. And we're just going to take a little walk down this spreadsheet, shall we? Among all likely voters in this sample, Trump was winning by 3.6 points. And it was usually 2, but For some reason, this 3-day set happened to be a little bit more Trumpy. We probably had one really strong overnight in there. So, not too surprising. But then let's look. Here's the gender breakdown. So, among women in this sample, it was still Trump, 1.5%, but the men were way more pro Trump, 5.8%. But we're going to see a bigger signal yet. Let's layer in kids. And whereas here we're seeing something like about 4.3 points apart, this is a lot more. We're getting up to like 9 points apart here. Married voters with no kids were Trump 3.4%, which makes sense, kind of. They fit sort of like the total population of voters. But married with kids, 12.8%. Oh, okay. This is gender and marriage. Married women, 14 points Trump. Married men, only 1 point Trump. Again, a lot of caveats, statistical noise. Maybe the married men are more urban, the married women more suburban. I can tell you the margin of error on these subsamples isn't that huge, probably plus or minus 5 points. But the odds of them being at the full margin of error are kind of low. And so it's a real signal. That's a bigger signal. Unmarried women, 13 points Kamala Harris. Married men, 13 points Trump. So pretty big. Now, layering in the pets. Dog owners, 1 point Harris. Cat owners, 6 points Harris. Now, they're both Harris, even though the poll went Trump, because there were other people that didn't own pets or they owned a lizard. I don't know. But we're just taking the dog and the cat owners here, which was most people. Men dog owners, 4 points Harris. Not sure what's happening. Women dog owners, 2 points Trump. That could be noise. Pretty close together. Men cat owners, 3 points Trump. Like, this one's funny that the men dog owners are more Harris than the men cat owners. But the big signal here is women cat owners, 15 points Kamala Harris. So if you see a trend, we're getting more and more Kamala Harris. And then here's the kill shot. Unmarried women cat owners, the cat ladies. The biggest signal anywhere on this page by a lot, by a mile, 36 points Kamala Harris. And it's not, I don't want to beat up on the women because look at the married women dog owners are the most Trumpy here by 17 points. So there's something going on very specifically that the cat brings to the picture. It's not married or unmarried. It's certainly not kids. It's not gender. It's not any of those things in isolation. Sprinkle a little bit of cat on top and you get, this is, what's that difference? It's massive. I got a minus 54 points apart. That's almost, well, it's not almost as far apart as Democrats and Republicans, but it's getting pretty close. Way higher signal than income, than education, than probably ideology even. Unmarried women dog owners are still Harris 15%. It's like they have the pit bull to keep them safe. I don't know. And unmarried men dog owners, 11 points. But, a lot of these are probably, this is not noise. 36 point Kamala Harris signal. So anyways, I thought that was funny. I've been talking about it a long time. It's something that only Rasmussen Reports would do. And if you like that, again, please hit like, please subscribe. If you've learned something, please follow us at RasmussenReports.com, Rasmussen_poll at Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Mark_R_Mitchell at Twitter. And thanks for watching.